Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Popcorn and Coffee movie review. I'm your host, Jesse, and with me here, as always, is Hazel. How are you?
What is going on?
We are getting into it today, aren't we? For real.
What? Yeah,
How's stuff? How's things?
good, fun.
Enjoying the summer weather?
Yes. And in the words of, well, no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say, in the words of the great philosopher, uh, see, I can't even think of his name. It doesn't matter.
As the wise Tibetan monks once said, "Don't start nothing, won't be nothing."
Nice.
What's that from?
Kung Fu Panda?
No, it's Chris Evans in The Losers,
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that one.
which is also a comic book movie. Which,
Yes,
interestingly enough, we're talking about a comic book movie today.
we are.
We're here gonna break down Thor: Love and Thunder. You ready to get into that?
Yes, but first, because we went and seen it last night.
Yep. I didn't wear my
So
shirt. I wore that. I bought a shirt last night.
I got this cool popcorn tin for the movie.
That is
So yeah,
a big debate of the movie, and before we get into any breakdown of it, because I've seen it on your tin there, it's the are you team Mjolnir or are you team Stormbreaker?
I'm Team Milner. Like that's his oldie but goodie. Like that's what makes him Thor is the hammer. Stormbreaker can take a hike.
I like Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker's cool.
But
New Mjolnir is cool too, though. And
yeah,
but new, I mean the one that was in this movie. Anyways, we're talking about 2022's Thor: Love and Thunder, PG-13 with an almost 2-hour runtime. Thor enlists the help of Valkyrie, Korg, and his ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to fight Gore the God Butcher, who intends to make gods extinct, played by Christian Bale. So we've got Chris Hemsworth coming back. We've got Natalie Portman playing probably the biggest role she's played yet.
yep,
Tessa Thompson's in there, also playing a bigger role than I think she did in Ragnarok, which is fun.
yeah,
And then you got
yeah.
faces like Russell Crowe. Who else is in there? You got Idris Elba for a little bit.
Yeah, Taiki Waititi comes back as Korg.
Yeah, correct.
Who
And
else?
Wright wrote it. He was kind of all inclusive on that one.
Yep. Kat Dennings is back as Natalie Portman's
Right.
assistant.
Yeah, and you even get some of Jamie Alexander's Lady Sif in there as well.
Yep.
Which is fun. Because she's one of the only characters that didn't die in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
All the Warriors 3 all died gruesome deaths.
Yep.
And then you've also got you've got the whole cast of Guardians coming back. So you got Chris Pratt and Dave Bautista, Karen Gillan, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel.
Yep.
The only one we didn't see was Gamora, so that'll be interesting to see what happens in their new movie with her character.
Mm-hmm.
If she's still a thing or not, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I'm assuming she's still in the world.
Right.
What were your thoughts on this one? Initial thoughts going into Thor: Love and Thunder.
So going into it, I thought it was going to be equal to Ragnarok or better. That's my expectation. I had high expectations for it. I had high hopes for a minute. But
yeah. Well, I went into Ragnarok with no expectations because I didn't know what was going to happen in that movie. And it far exceeded everything I thought it was going to be. Everything about that movie was on an 11. I really think so. So yeah, all this one really had to do was be consistent more than it did anything. I didn't think it was going to far exceed Ragnarok. All it had to do was do the exact same thing Ragnarok did, honestly.
mm-hmm.
What do you think about the story overall?
Story was cool. I really liked the way they set up Christian Bale's character. I thought what they did, like his reasoning behind why he was trying to kill all the gods and stuff and what his purpose was behind that, I thought was set up great. but I think some of the executions and stuff throughout the movie is what kind of ruined it, or not ruined it, but it fell short in some areas that I think they could have done a better job with.
Well, yeah, I would totally agree because I think there's everything you had with Gore's character, Christian Bale's character, I thought was really good, and his motivations were solid, which made him a compelling villain, which is all you can ask for from these movies. Just give them. I would place him up there with Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger. Honestly, they're about on the same scale where you're like, I understand where he's coming from. I just disagree with his methods. I can appreciate the hurt and I can appreciate the pain and I can relate to that. Just the villain takes it then to an 11 and it's just like, oh, well, okay, now you're doing things that I can't condone.
Right.
You're the bad guy.
Right.
And same thing with the storyline of Jane Foster becoming Thor. I know a lot of people have issue with that, both in the comics and in the movie. Whoa, Marvel, you're going way woke with a woman becoming Thor. Why can't just Thor the guy be Thor? I didn't get that sense at all from this. It did not bother me that she took up the mantle of Thor. I mean, you're also talking about a series where we've got Loki and all the different versions of Loki. Even there's an alligator Loki and there's a frog Thor. Like
right.
It doesn't seem. It was really cool to see her step into that role, honestly, more than it was anything.
Yeah.
But oh, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, and like you said, she wasn't. It didn't seem like they were pushing like like feminist agenda with her being Thor. She was sick. She got and she needed the hammer. She tries to use the Norse mythology and the hammer and stuff to help her. So yeah, I
thought it was great. I thought she was a compelling hero character.
Yeah.
I think so many people are like, oh well, nobody can write strong female leads anymore. I would completely disagree. This is a perfect example of a success in that area. Her making the choice to sacrifice her own life at the end of that as well. Spoiler, not spoiler. To pick up and do what needs to be done. I think that's
Yeah. My biggest issue with I would say like a woke push in this film was Korg's story.
The homosexual stuff.
Yeah, like so Korg starts telling the story about how his two dads, so his was born of two homosexual men. Okay, whatever. They're rocks. Whether you want to argue biologically with rocks, whatever. If you want to argue that's fine. The issue is that in Ragnarok, he specifically talks about having a mother. So why are they changing that? If they would have said he had two dads in Ragnarok, fine, whatever, don't care. But now they have to change it. That's what ticks me off about the film. And
it's so forced. It's so forced. It's like the homosexual kiss in Eternals. It's like it's borderline cringeworthy just because you're like, oh, like this doesn't aid the story in any way. This doesn't fill in anything about characters. You're only putting that stuff in there to cater to a certain audience because that's where society's at right now. And you're going to get nicked by them if you don't. And I think that's stupid. I just think that's dumb and lazy.
And it is because you already had a LGBTQ character in Valkyrie. We already knew she was a lesbian. Like that's been backstory for years now since Ragnarok. That's been like part of the backstory. The comics, we know that all the Valkyrie are. So it would have made more sense to lean more into that if they were going to do that instead of going Korg's route. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to by any means like defend the need for homosexual characters in movies, right? We all have our stances on that. But you're absolutely right. From just a filmmaker's standpoint, like you already had the road was already paved, but just because, and it goes to show how much they feel they need to go out of their way to cater to these individuals, that you're forcing stuff in there in other ways. So you're just like, well, this is bad. Like this is just bad storytelling.
Yeah.
It is, and everybody was freaking out, especially on the right, oh, well, the part of the movie is going to be Valkyrie looking for her queen. That was not even there at
Nope.
all.
Nope.
And it's just like I don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah.
We don't need her love story just as much as we don't need Korg's love story. That none of that is relevant to the story in any way. The only
Right.
love story you care about is Jane and Thor.
Hmm.
They're the main characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get the nude scene with Thor and stuff, which another just ridiculous, which we knew was coming. Like
Yep.
they take Taika Waititi came out and said it was going to be in the film. You were going to see his bare butt, cheeks, whatever you want to call them. Unnecessary. Unnecessary. And then you get, oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
No, I was just gonna say, and then you get Russell Crowe as Zeus, and he's talking about having orgies. Like literally in that one scene, I'm pretty sure he mentioned having an orgy, what, 5 or 6 times, maybe 7. It's like, why? And if this is the route,
what I don't get, going back to the nudity scene, the bare butt scene, I get it's just a butt or whatever, but like, number one, why'd you put that in the advertising? Like, the joke is supposed to be that he incidentally blows his clothes off of him because he just flicks too hard,
right?
Why did you even put that in the trailer? If that was supposed to be one of your like gags, that would have come across as way funnier, even though I'm like, I don't need to see his bare butt at all. That would have been funnier if we didn't know you were doing that. Like, why did you put in your marketing, hey, everybody, we're going to get to see Chris Hemsworth's rear in this movie?
Yeah.
Why was that part of the market? It blows my mind because it's so stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I'm trying not to be disrespectful, but at the same time, it's like, it is the laziest version of everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
And Russell Crowe was unbearably hard to watch. Like, it was annoyingly bad, even when he wasn't talking about orgies, just talking in general. I don't know why they gave him that accent. Why not just let him be normal? And I get it. The point was, it's not beyond me. They're supposed to be these gods who are disconnected from reality, who are above everyone and don't care about people or their subjects anymore. I get it. I just don't think it worked.
No, not at all. And I feel like, I mean, we've talked about this before. This is a direction that Disney's going to be going. And if they're going to be going this way with Marvel films, you are going to be alienating a certain demographic of people. Those are the Christian conservatives. You're going to, a lot of them will not come and watch these. They're not going to bring their kids. So you're losing. So even if like they would go and watch them, like we will go and watch them, I'm still going to watch it. Like I'll go to the theater for a new movie and watch it, but I'm not going to bring my kids to watch it. So now you're losing out on, that's 3 extra tickets I'm going to purchase.
Yeah, well, and not aside from that, it's just like, okay, well, when you start to have a degradation in how you're telling the stories and the thought that you're putting into it, as opposed to just you're rushing it in, it's going to slowly just kill itself, the franchise, to where you're not making $1 billion at the box office anymore with your Marvel movies, and you're just going to start losing your fan base. What's going to happen, and it's going to happen eventually. It's bound to happen. I mean, we're almost 30 movies into this huge overarching story. Eventually, it's going to get old, but it doesn't help when you're just making subpar movies intentionally, because this is Taika Waititi. I wasn't going to take my kids to this movie regardless, because I knew how Ragnarok was. You know what you're getting going into this movie. I just think he did it badly.
Yeah.
I just think this is, for Taika and for what we know he's capable of doing, this is just bad.
Yeah. And
I mean, and maybe it's just we need to get past Thor. Maybe Thor needs to stop being a character, and maybe he should have left with, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. from the original stories, done. Chris Evans from the original stories, done. The original cast has to start leaving to pave the way for new characters. Thor's still here. Is this movie an example of the fact that maybe he should have been done as well? Maybe he should be gone as well, because I would have loved if this movie was just Jane Foster. That character was strong enough on her own that if the whole plot was her dying of cancer, her finding his hammer and using his hammer and then being like, okay, well, I'm going to take up his role now because he's gone. He's out of the picture. I'm going to do this. I'm going to step into this for him. I think that's a way more interesting story than watching Chris Hemsworth sludge on screen and pretty much regress in characterization because he's resorting to stuff that he was struggling with 3 movies ago. You know, he's becoming more of a bumbling idiot than he is anything.
Yeah.
The arc is over. There's nowhere else for him to go.
And the only thing I can think of for them keeping Thor around, which you have the Guardians, so but he brings in that threat to Earth relevance, and I think like with actually bringing the Avengers together, Thor brings that threat from outer space to Earth.
Yeah,
because that's the only thing I can think of why they would do that.
but I mean, it's not like you're getting rid of Thor, the character, or anything to do with the lore of Thor. If Jane Foster's still taking up that role, you're just getting rid of Chris Hemsworth.
And maybe like with Natalie Portman, she probably wasn't going to sign on for another 5 or 6 movies.
Yeah.
So I doubt she was going to.
Yeah. I just think this was just a struggle to tell a story that maybe didn't need to be told. And I don't mean the Jane Foster stuff, and I don't mean the Christian Bale stuff. I just mean the Chris Hemsworth stuff. You're struggling to put a story out there for a character where there's no story left to tell for him. You know, you even like decimated Korg to just a face in this movie. Like, what are you gonna do in the next one now with that same character? Nothing.
Well, he's back. He's got his boyfriend now.
Oh, I guess you're right. At the end, he had his body back. How did he get his body back?
I don't know. He's a rock, so
glue.
Yeah.
He went and talked to the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting that it went the route that it did, and sitting in a theater full of people. I mean, it was pretty full. I would say 3/4.
Yeah.
Barely any laughs.
Oh yeah. And the parts that I chuckled at or was laughing at, nobody else was laughing at. So,
and it was the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's just if you're putting in 3 screaming goat scenes, and I'm laughing at that just because I think a screaming goat is funny, and nobody else is laughing at any of the jokes. None of the jokes are landing. The Korg stuff felt overused. Man, it was so devoid of so much humor.
And that part of that could be is a heavier film. I mean, Gore is probably one of the darkest characters I think we've seen in Thor.
No doubt.
So, I mean, it's hard to add comedy to that. And then you've got Jane's got cancer. So there's that. Like, how do you?
I just think it's more that it's just bad jokes as opposed to not like the world isn't now funny enough. I just think it's bad. You could tell a joke about you could tell a joke about cancer. A lot of comedians tell jokes about cancer, and it'd be doing something funny in a bad situation. But it's just maybe they went even darker. If I have any suggestion, it should have been a darker movie, and Gord doing way more than what they even allowed him to do.
Yeah. I agree. Actually, I was just getting ready to think. I was thinking the same thing. Just cut out the jokes completely, make it more serious. And I know people probably didn't want to see that because the last Thor did so well with just the goofiness of it. But I think you can do it. It didn't carry over. No,
it just doesn't carry.
Nope, not at all.
So, would you recommend this movie?
No. Do not. Yeah, don't know. There's nothing in this film that I could see that would, whatever films are coming up, and maybe after some of the newer ones come out and the new Avengers, maybe it'll be like, oh yeah, you need to watch Thor: Love and Thunder to get what's going on. As far as just watching it, didn't really need to watch any of it to see what's going on.
It's true.
I don't feel like there was anything in this film that's going to explain anything in future MCU stuff.
Yeah. I would say if I had a recommendation to make, I would say wait until it comes out on Disney Plus and give it a watch. And give it a watch solely because I think what Natalie Portman what Natalie Portman does and what Christian Bale does, I think is phenomenal. Those are
Yeah.
the best parts of the movie. Their acting and the role that they were playing in the movie that they were in, which is I think is a different movie than what Chris Hemsworth was in, I think is really, really good. Like it's
Mhm.
really good. Unfortunately, I would agree with you that it doesn't justify all the other stuff. There's not enough good to outweigh all of the like it's tough. It's tough to watch. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just it
Yeah.
was tough. Oh, and then the other thing I didn't comment, and I would put this in the good category. So you had Natalie Portman, you had Christian Bale, and then the stuff that they did at the end. Again, spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. But he gives a bunch of children the powers of Thor to help him fight because he
Yeah.
needs help fighting the bad guy in the bad guy's army. So he bestows upon them the powers of Thor. So you have a lot of children just running around doing Thor stuff, and that was
Yeah.
incredible to watch. It was
Yeah.
so much fun to watch. And they're
Yep.
just they bring like this childhood joy. You could tell the children are just having a good time on set filming this, and it brings a smile to your face watching
Yeah.
it. Um,
Yeah.
but outside of those three things, I think there's nothing redeemable about this movie.
And I do. So yeah, going off of the children though, I will say they introduced
Heimdall.
Heimdall's son in the film, who I thought was really good also. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping they continue him. If they continue making Thor films, they continue with his character. And even that actor who was really, I thought he did great for being a kid.
Yeah.
Like, and that role is going to be really cool.
I think he's a young Avenger.
Oh, is he? Okay.
In the comics, that Heimdall's son's character is one of the young Avengers. So I would love to see them put a young Avengers team together and him just have whatever powers his dad had.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. That would be cool.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. So, like, if you get rid of Thor, you have no way to use the Rainbow Road to get across the universe. But if you got Heimdall's son, then you bring him in and he fills that gap.
Yeah.
And again, I haven't said anything on Christian Bale yet, but I really, and I mean, you've said it too, phenomenal. Like he's like, the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, like good.
The way he would be serious and then he'd start laughing just
Yeah.
It was just like, man.
Yeah.
And let's comment that in the comics, and I know they're not going to do it in the movies because they can't, but the sword that he's using, the Necro sword, is actually from the planet that Venom is from.
Okay.
The king or the god of Venom's world, that's who wields the Necro sword in the comics. But obviously they can't do that in these movies because Venom blows money. But
right. So rating, what would you give this out of 5 stars?
I don't know. I would give it a 2.5.
Yep, same. That's what I had. So
because again, I think luckily what Christian Bale does and what Natalie Portman does is so good. Like it's so good that it at least balances that the cringe word, the Russell Crowe stuff and the Korg stuff. Just it balances out the cringe-worthy comedy to center.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about it, honestly.
I thought yeah, it was pretty much it. I did think that Matt Damon reprising his role as Loki in the theatrical version of Thor was fantastic. He did amazing. Sam Neill, just man, he looks like Odin. It's crazy. I don't know how they do that.
Melissa McCarthy coming in.
Melissa McCarthy, yeah. Yes.
I even love when like it's the play, obviously, and he throws his hammer. Thor throws his hammer. You just see the strings and it's moving through I loved every minute of it. But they got their clothes ripped off, and you could see the strings rip their clothes off, and their superhero costumes are underneath.
Yeah.
Just great.
I want to see that movie.
That's the kind of stuff that they need to lean heavier into, because the other stuff,
yeah.
So All right. Well, why don't you take us home?
All right. If you like what she, head over to Popcorn and Coffee on Apple Podcasts, and please like and subscribe. You can also listen to us on Google Podcasts and Spotify. Check this out on YouTube at Popcorn and Coffee, and you can like and subscribe on there. Share with your friends, family, and let us know what you think over there as well. Oh, you can also follow me on Instagram at JahazielGood, or follow Jesse on Instagram at
Popcorn and Coffee. Yep. Please share it. If you're in a circle of people who like to talk about movies, we love to talk about movies. That's who we're trying to reach out to, guys. So just share us with your friends.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.